What is up? This is Pastor John, and this is video 1 from a new series entitled Bars. You may or may not have known this, but I was in a Christian rap group in my later teens and early 20s called Replicas, and I was with some like-minded brothers in Christ, and we made Christian hip-hop rap songs. And so I got a shout out to my guys P. Cove, Young Marcy, John Stalo. Shouts out to my boys P. Cove, Young Marcy. I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. And probably many others that I'm not thinking of that were very instrumental in making music and inspiration and the whole writing process. It was a great time in my walk with Jesus and just expressing and sharing my gifts with the world for Jesus. And by the way, with the world means like 30 people usually, but hey, it was the world nonetheless. So here's what we're gonna do. We are going to start a new video series entitled Bars. And we are going to look at some of those early songs in my early 20s that I wrote and recorded with this group called Replicas. So check this out. This first track we'll be looking at is Hold Me Down. I wrote this somewhere around the age 20 or 21, and I'll never forget, I was at Jerome Combs Detention Center visiting a friend of mine who found himself in a rough situation, and he was at the detention center. And I remember a bunch of guys coming around and my buddy being like, he always said this, "Yo, Jay, spit something." And so there's all these inmates kind of surrounded me, and I'm just like, hey, what do I got? Hey, yo, da, da, da. And I just started rapping, and I remember these guys kind of lighting up. And I don't know if it was because they were just shocked that a white guy was rapping there in the detention center, or if they were actually really blessed by it. But either way, I left that hour-long meeting with my brother visiting him really encouraged. And so I remember right from there driving to my pastor's house, shout out to Aaron Clark, where he had a studio in his basement specifically for guys like me, Phil, P. Cove, and Marcy. And so he had this studio set up for us, and we literally had all access to that. And we would go there and just write and record. And so I went there, I found a beat, and I was like, man, I gotta write something. And whatever came to my mind, whatever came to my heart at that time, I wrote. And really, it ended up being my testimony. So we're gonna listen to this first verse, and I'm gonna kind of stop it and share a little bit and then resume it. Check this out. I'm new. Inspired by 2 Corinthians 5:17.
You can't hold me down. Nah, you can't hold me down. I've been laughed at, mocked, and ridiculed ever since preschool to high school. Man, I hated school. Man, I hated dudes, even those I looked up to. Never let me in that crew like summer boy, I wasn't cool.
Man, there's a lot there, but let me break down a little bit of it. I've been laughed at, mocked, and ridiculed ever since preschool to high school. Man, I hated school. I was just not a good student. From grade school, junior high, high school, probably in preschool, I always seemed to lag behind. I was also the youngest pretty much in my grade, and so I just struggled in school, and I found myself getting laughed at and mocked and ridiculed very early on in life, whether it be for my height, the way I walked, or even because people found out I lived in a small mobile home trailer. People would laugh at me and call me Tin Can Home and everything else. I just found that being a hard time. And the same people that were laughing at me were some of the same people that I emulated and I idolized. And so I really wanted to be in their crew. Even though they made fun of me, I wanted to be in their crew, but like Summer Boy, I wasn't cool.
I wasn't cool, but mama set the bar high. Go fill up bigger shoes. Those shoes are too big, mama. I feel like on them computer. That 4.0 is out my reach like alligator arms. Now the allegations on, man. I couldn't stand my mom.
Man, a lot there again. My mother and I was raised by a single mom. I didn't have a dad in the home. And my mom and I happened to clash quite a bit, especially when I was in high school. My brother was in Iraq. He was serving in the Army. Shout out to my brother Kenny, served 2 tours in Iraq. It was a very high-stress moment. And my mom was stressed. She was working crazy hours. I was stressed. I'm a teenager. And her and I just never really saw eye to eye in those years. And she set the bar high for me. She was like, man, go fill up bigger shoes. Like, you need to fill in your brother's shoes. You need to do this and do that. You don't need to be looking at these guys trying to be like them. And I was like, man, those shoes are too big, mama. I feel like a nincompoop. That 4.0, which is a GPA, is out my reach like alligator arms. Alligators have small arms. And I had a 2.5 GPA by the time I graduated high school. Very shameful. My mom did not raise me like that, but I had a 2.5 GPA nonetheless by the time high school was over with. And I remember not even realizing that until I was in line at my graduation ceremony, when I realized they were, I think, like lining people up according to their GPA. I'm like, man, where's my gold tassel? You don't get anything for a 2.5 GPA. And so that was what was going on at home a little bit. And we'll get into a little more here in a minute.
Hate was in my heart, in the dark, trailer park, smoking weed, drinking liquor, garbage can full of bar.
Hate was in my heart. I was really struggling. I hated people. I was starting to hate the people that I should love the most. I was starting to hate them. But most of all, I think more than anything, I was starting to hate myself. I was falling in a pit of depression, and I had great anxiety, and I didn't even know it was called anxiety. I think when I was a young man in high school, I didn't hear about anxiety disorders or anything like that. But looking back, I realized, man, I was struggling with some for real anxiety and depression that was going undiagnosed. And so all of this was just building up in this trailer park. And check this out. Here's my trailer that we grew up in.
I was worthless, I was hurting, suicide behind the curtains. Then Christ opened my eyes, I'm certain I'm new.
Man, I felt like I was worthless, I was hurting, and in the background, I had these suicidal thoughts. And I say that was like behind the curtains because I really didn't let anyone know that I was struggling with suicidal thoughts. And I just allowed it to mount up until one day I literally grabbed a knife. My mom left, no one was home. Once again, brothers in Iraq at this time. And I grabbed a knife and I went into my room and I contemplated suicide super seriously for the first time in my room all alone while my mom worked midnights. And it was at that moment where I just surrendered my life to Jesus, and I'm new. I became a new creation in Jesus Christ. 2 Corinthians 5:17 became my reality. It says, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone, the new is here. And then here's the hook.
And I'm new. I'm coming with that real. You won't hold me down. I've been made a new creation. You don't know me now. You can toss me to the ground, but you can't hold me down. You can't hold me down now. You can't hold me down.
Who can't hold me down? I don't even know. Like, I'm writing this and I'm like, you can't hold me down. I don't know who I was even talking to in the process. I felt like I was preaching in a mirror, like I don't want to hold myself down. I'm looking at the enemy. You can't hold me down. I'm looking at enemies and naysayers throughout my life. You can't hold me down. You may be able to toss me to the ground, but you can't hold me down.
I'm coming with that real. You won't hold me down. I've been made a new creation. You don't know me now. You can toss me to the ground, but you can't hold me down. You can't hold me down.
coming with that real, you can't hold me down. I've been made a new creation. You don't know me now. I'm changed. And that was really my heart as I left Jerome Combs Detention Center after visiting my buddy who found himself in a horrible situation due to a mistake that he made, due to sin that he committed. And I was reminding myself and looking back at my story and my testimony and reminding myself, man, I'm new. I'm a new creation in Christ Jesus. The old is gone, the new is here. I need to celebrate that, and I also need to remind myself of that, because sometimes, if I can be real with you, I don't know if you feel this way, but I don't always feel new. And so sometimes I have to preach that to myself. I have to remind myself that I'm new. I have to remind the enemy I'm new. I have to remind my enemies I'm new. And I have to remind, sometimes most of all and most importantly, myself that I'm new. I pray this encouraged you guys. Check out the link in the description. You can listen to the full song there. And shout out once again to P. Colv, who wasn't only on the second verse of this song, but he also always recorded me and he mixed everything. And he was really the mastermind behind a lot of this music. So shout out to P. Colv. God bless you. We hope you enjoyed this. Peace. I love y'all.